This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Thursday, everybody. It's 9 to noon. It's Nordo in for PA, taking hand signals. I feel like I'm on a tarmac at MSP, but that's all good. Ben Leber in studio and some bonus Goessling. Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Let's just make it a round table. Ben Leber, how you doing today?
Better than one.
Oh, absolutely. Ben squared.
We've never had Ben squared, ever.
Yeah, this is a first, isn't it?
It is a first. Yeah, usually.
Making
so
history.
I think the way the lineup is on Sundays of game day, it's like, it's me, then you.
Correct. Because Muss usually says from one Ben to another Ben or something like that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like the first week or two or three, because I'm so dense, it took me a while. So I would get done with the segment, and I can still obviously hear off mic what's going on.
Yeah.
And then he would say your name, and I'm like, do I have another segment? Like I would have that like second of panic of, am I on again?
Yeah.
Like, what am I missing here? No, it's just you.
Remind me, are you doing your hits field side on game days, or are you?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're field side.
Yeah.
It's wireless mic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you now. I don't know if you've ever heard this audio. I don't know if Brett knows where it is, but we play it once in a while, reminding ourselves of Zach Halverson, I believe at XL Energy Center, or maybe it was at TCF Bank Stadium, running as fast as he could for a radio hit to join Barrero and Gardsey. And they pot him up. He's on the air. Oh, here we go. You got it?
Now let's head to the X for a high school hockey tournament update.
Well, let me make sure he's there. Hang on.
I thought he was there. Oh, he's not even ready yet? Zach, are you there yet? Did you find him?
I found him.
That's outstanding.
Hey, Zach, you there?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just in the press conference for Bruce Pland after their 6-5 victory over St. Cloud Cathedral, and they're obviously pretty happy. A heck of a hockey game, the second of two great games here at the X thus far. It sets up a Class A championship game tomorrow between Hermantown and Monticello Annandale Maple Lake. So, Gardsey, Barrero, it's going to be a
Why don't you catch your breath?
Yeah.
Why don't you head to Trio?
Zach, are you all right?
I literally sprinted across the El Saber press box. Here
Is there a medic at the XL Energy Center? Trio Orthopedic Center.
All right, we'll take over from here.
So
I've never heard that. That's fantastic.
you've been in a rush.
Yeah.
Maybe either one of you, or it's a scramble. You see a text message, or you check your watch, Ben, and you got to jump over to the bench where the headset is. You've been in the press conference area, or excuse me, just the press box area, right? Yeah. You got to weave your way by the hot dog stand, get out in the hallway. So it can be a clipping penalty once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Have you ever been on the verge of passing out while trying to deliver a report?
Hermantown.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I think he said Annandale, and that was the one where it did sound like he was.
Hockey game, the second of two great games here at the X thus far.
No, have not been to that point. It is a nice. It's one of the sneaky benefits of my chosen hobby on the side of my job is that if you have to run, and I've had moments where I've had to do it, you can usually do it and put it back together and not sound terribly out of sorts pretty quickly.
Even off air, Ben, you rolled in and exchanging pleasantries, catching up with each other during the break, and I think you even asked him, like, you going for a run?
Yeah.
And then you even said, well, I got a schedule here, so it'll be later today.
Yep.
Would you say that physical fitness in your personal life could actually lead to being more composed in moments where pace is necessary?
I think so. Yeah, I've had moments where I had like trying to get to there's some far-flung locker room in a stadium. And, as you know now, Ben, every 5 feet they make you stop and do the retinal scan are you supposed to be here and that kind of thing. So you get in moments where it's like, man, I need to get down here because they're opening the locker room. Press conferences are happening now. So, yeah, I've had moments where, because I'm typically wearing a suit to games, and I have to move in a suit sometimes. It works out.
You're probably talking more just like emotional stress versus physiological stress.
Right. Yes. Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I'm kind of like quote unquote sweating it out because I'm like, I'm going to be late. Hence, I actually ran from Abbott's office because he and I were just chopping it up. And I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of watching the clock. And then I'm like, well, you're, PA, I hope he's not listening, you're more on time than PA is. So I've gotten used to like 10:02. I'm like, I'm still good.
Yeah, you can slow roll it down there.
And then I'm like, wait, it's Nordo though. So like, I gotta go. So like, I ran down here.
Yeah.
Now it's not as far as maybe that Halvey ran, but thankfully,
that's similar distance.
Thankfully.
Now, in fairness, I'm doing all of this. I am a hypocrite. I'm not in the process exactly of training for a 10K myself.
Sure.
But all the same, that's one of the great audio moments.
Yeah,
in,
but you're not
KFAN history.
You're not on mic having a convulsion there.
No, that's correct. As far as anybody knows, I've got full breath control in those moments. Yeah. What an unbelievable. Speaking of Abbott, by the way, whether it's the program director cares about clocks. As in timing,
yes.
As it pertains to we have a list printed out somewhere of break times and various things. Whether it's clomping on you, Goessling is stuck in the freaking stairwell trying to find his way up to the 5th floor. He needs a key card. Program director won't do it. Program director's sabotaging 9 to noon.
Oh my
gosh! Is what he's doing.
Well, then, in those situations, then it should be Abbott that is the one that goes and gets you.
I think it was last week.
Was it?
When this happened. Yeah. And then it was still like, hey, we should get a key card. He's like, yeah, we'll see.
So for every regular guest that we have on this show or any KFAN show, if they don't have a key card, then Abbott has to let them in. That's his punishment.
There you go.
I just wanted to take, Abbott is to our station. It's like you need a boogeyman. You need someone you can just put arbitrary and completely, just unreasonable burdens upon at any given time. And he's the bad guy as far as the mic's concerned. Yeah. But Abbott does his thing. Now, I was talking with Ben last couple of segments, Ben Goessling, but to you, Leber.
Now we're going to confuse you.
So I'm going to go. So Leber, as a former player, Ben Goessling has been covering Vikings minicamp. Minicamp changes when you played versus the way that Ben's covering them now.
If you had just said Ben as a former player, by the way, they would have known you were talking about Leber, not me.
I don't know. Special teams contributions?
Did you play at any level?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Have you ever put a football helmet on?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think you're halfway there. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you can call yourself a player.
Growing up, they don't cut anybody.
Yeah.
But how different is minicamp now, Leber, versus when you played? Because right now, Goessling was talking about it. It's 7-on-7s. It's a lot of light work. It's a lot of instruction that's taking place, teaching and learning phases. There are philosophical changes. But from the days of 2-a-days and stuff like that, 90-degree heat down in Cato, to now where, they even scheduled an OTA week next week that probably is nothing.
Yeah.
So how much has that changed?
It's changed a lot. It's the same thing, and I really don't want to be the old guy on the porch yelling at everybody. But the reality is, it was just more physical. Everything about the game when I was playing was more physical. It was longer. We checked in the 3rd Monday of March. Now they check in the 3rd Monday of April. I actually enjoyed that because it was a chance to have 4 more weeks of strength and conditioning that actually pertained to football. We were doing football related drills. We were doing football related stuff with the strength and conditioning staff, and to which all of these teams have amazing staffs that are all accredited. They work with you. So I felt like I got stronger and faster through their programs versus maybe some of the stuff that I was hiring trainers to do in the off season, because I still did do that as well. But, when we got from OTAs, which were kind of physical and some of the one-on-one challenging stuff, into minicamp was, there were days where we're like, why aren't we wearing pads?
Wow.
Because we actually think that we'd be safer at least in uppers. We don't have to wear the leg pads. Heck, even when we're full pack, a lot of defensive players don't even wear leg pads. So it's like, can we just put on shoulder pads? Because I'm actually tired of my chest getting ripped up, because we would do one-on-one drills with tight ends, pass drills and stuff like that. And it was super physical. We do full speed pass rushing drills against the offensive linemen. And they didn't want our hands being put on them with no pads on, and we didn't, and conversely. So it was way more intense, way more physical. It wouldn't be, I remember there was one particular play my rookie year. It was not necessarily my welcome to the NFL moment, but it was eye-opening to see the pace of which guys practiced. And I'm watching Junior Seau as a middle linebacker in a not quote-unquote non-padded practice. And he's so smart. I mean, at this point in time, he's year, 9 or something like that. And we're running 101 basic plays. The offense is just installing their plays. And so we're getting simple ISO, simple leads, simple power, simple counters. And so he knows he can read the pulling guard by his stance and by, just the nature of the game. He knows this guy's going to pull. And so he just abandons his assignment and blows this guy up. So the play is
without pads on.
Without pads on. So it is a power to the right, defensive left. He's on the backside where the pulling guard was. The guard pulls, he shoots the gap and just tea kettles this guy from the side and blows up this play. And then nicely just taps off on the running back like you should, right? With 2 hands. And I'm like, oh my God. He just launched a 315-pound guy in no pads. I'm like, is that the tempo of what we're supposed to be doing here?
Is that how it's going to be every day?
Do you think anybody reprimanded him for that? No.
There were probably some oohs and ahs and some high fives and some chest bumps.
People clown the offensive lineman for getting blasted and whatever. And then the offense okay, it's like that. All right, fine. We're gonna blah blah. And then all of a sudden, defensive linemen they start puffing their chest out all right, here we go. And I'm like, we're doing a full-on padded practice with no pads on.
Yeah.
You couldn't even come close to that in this day and age.
Meanwhile, the guard starts the season on the PUP list.
like Junior, Buddy. Everybody called him Buddy. Buddy, you realize that that's your own teammate. That is a starter on this team. Let's not hurt this guy because we do need him in the fall.
So then Goessling, though, covering the team and covering the NFL as long as you have, do you think you glean more from a more physical environment? Because in the same sense, the current culture would tell you that actually we don't have to have those moments to ultimately put this thing together on paper.
I think the current structure means that you have to kind of check your perceptions a little bit at the door. Kind of like we were talking about, it is so different. It is so far removed from what you're going to see in the fall that these sort of takeaways you're going to have from these practices, I think you understand that you have to be a little bit less confident in what you're seeing, knowing that it is just going to be very different. So, yeah, I mean, I think you probably could have gotten a little more out of those. I mean, even I can think early in my time covering the team, whether it was Leslie Frazier or Mike Zimmer, it looked different than it does now. It's still quite a bit different than what it was before the CBA changed in 2011, and all of the offseason stuff got to be a lot different. But I think even those probably were a little more representative in the early days. I think I met him in year 14 of the beat. So early days was probably a little more of that, but now you kind of have to learn to check it a little.
Well, that's sweet.
You know what I think is unfortunate about that? And I'm going to guess, and this is just like rumblings and murmurs that I've heard throughout the years from coaches. I mean, the coaches, they don't like the fact that the PA got some of this in the last CBA.
100%.
Because it does make it hard to evaluate. We do see like these guys that look great with no pads on, especially wide receivers. You're going to fall in love if the only evaluation that you have is 15 practices in the offseason of non-padded practices to watch them run around and basically their underwear and a helmet, see no press coverage, see no real contact. They look great. It would be hard to see. It'd be hard to tell outside of maybe Justin Jefferson, number 2 through number 10 on the depth chart.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, wow, they all look amazing. Look how deep our wide receivers are. But we see it every single year. The first week of camp, man, when you actually put the pads on and you can actually start hitting guys, and then now they have to start thinking a lot more about getting hit. And then how am I going to adjust my route and keep the same timing when I got to get off this press and I got to, this guy's super physical with me. You see the separation happen immediately, but you would like to see that happen as a game plan going into training camp.
Right.
Because now we've taken training camp, they cut out a game. Now there's only 3 games, and now there's no more 2-a-days. So
eventually there'll be 2 preseason games.
Eventually 2 preseason games. everything gets scrunched down, and then the time actually on the field gets scrunched down. And so now it's more about who you know as the starters to get the reps versus letting some of these backup guys try to earn a spot. I actually feel bad for, guys that are number 40 through, 52 on the roster, because they're getting less opportunities to get real reps to prove themselves.
And so this would be so the Players Association, they're beholden to the veterans then, right? Is it the veterans or the more established players? Would they be the ones that benefit from that as you're talking?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, as you get older and you get more banged up and you get more, you start to lose the tread on your tires. It's like, well, yeah, I would like a little lighter off season. And especially if for like a guy like Harrison Smith, where you know the system for such a long time, they're like, I can run this defense on day one of training camp. Like, it's not that big deal. I don't need these OTA, situations.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely benefits them, but I look at it holistically as what's best for the game. And what's best for the game is not what they're doing.
Well, and you hear, I think with quarterbacks especially, I mean, you hear so many older quarterbacks talk about that time that you mentioned, March, where you can be there earlier in March, and I think they'd have stretches where you could basically stay probably even a little bit longer if you're a quarterback kind of going through these rookie development camps and that kind of thing. And I think Brady's talked about it. I think I've heard Rodgers talk about it in the sense that extra time you got with coaches to just work on things was so valuable in your understanding of how to play the game. I think with that position being as complex as it is, I mean, that's where you hear coaches lament it too, in terms of like, I want to have more time to work with my young quarterback. Yeah. I just don't have enough of it. So you have to make the best of what you have, but you don't have as much as you'd like.
Wow.
No.
When Rodgers isn't exactly living up to that more time with coaches and more time on the task.
Not at this point.
Philosophy these days. Last thing, Mr. Goessling, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah.
Does it make it more difficult?
Key card on demand. Chad Abbott, ladies and gentlemen.
The power of the radio. Chad Abbott comes storming in.
Elevators even work today, too, so I shouldn't say that so
and
loud.
just slid a key card to Goessling.
Well, here's
Fantastic.
the problem, is I think it just cost me my key card. Is it tougher for you, Shane and Tonka? Is it tougher for you to cover the NFL, Ben, given that you never played football?
I haven't found it to be a terribly big detriment, but I'm sure it would help to have learned some things from that. But yeah, I don't know how much from playing in high school or sitting on a bench in high school you would have gleaned that helps you do it at this level. Because realistically, that's what it would have been. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, you would have been a rock star safety.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose if I had bulked up and done that, I might have been able to figure that out.
Creatine in you, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
Little lanky, but rangy.
Yeah.
We have called you tall and athletic.
Yeah. The words you would use, I would have been the kid that was studying film all the time, and I would have been the gym rat.
First person on the field, last person to leave, cerebral.
Real technical receiver.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Yeah, you always knew the leverage of the defense that they were running. You're like, God, this guy's not super fast, not super, but he's always open.
Yeah, he owns the fundamentals.
You were the crafty one.
Oh, crafty. All the code words.
Yeah, you're crafty.
Yeah, sneaky athletic.
Sneaky athletic.
I know the words.
And
I would have been all of those things.
We look forward to reading them in the Star Tribune, my friend. It was awesome to spend an extra segment with you.
It was fun.
Thank you for doing that. That's Ben Goessling, now key card in tow.
I got some Leber time. I got a key card. I got everything I need.
This is,
if
these are the
you
glory
really
days.
need
Christmas morning.
If you really need to brand this new segment that we have, it could be Between Two Bens.
Oh,
yeah.
I
mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds now Halvey or somebody would take it a different way, but
this isn't 5:30.
Yeah, this isn't 5:30.
No,
I like it. Between Two Bens. Perfect.
Here we go.
No sponsor currently, so there's an opportunity there between two bets.
Maybe the key card company can pony up for a sponsorship, and then we get some more key cards out of it. You can get yours back.
I'm going to get yelled at. Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, at Ben Goessling via X. He's on his way to cover the Vikings in mandatory minicamp, so make sure to follow his stuff. Head coach speaking later today. Looking forward to that. But Ben Leber will remain in studio at Nacho Leber when we return. Nordo in for PA on the Fan.
Catch your links this Saturday at noon in a matinee matchup with the LA Sparks. You can listen right here on the Fan and hear every game this season on the Timberwolves/Lynx channel on the free iHeartRadio app. Thanks to RBC Wealth Management.
back. Nacho Leber sticking around. Weekly guest 9 to noon. Between two Bens, John and Shakopee says, I just don't understand this at all, Ben. Now Tommy and Zach only need 2 wishes. What is that? I don't understand that.
Well, I can maybe explain it to you better off air.
I love it, baby.
Okay.
Yeah, I like where he's going with that, but you definitely have to be in tuned every Thursday morning on the power trip.
Carl in Minneapolis, it's raining, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like It's Raining Men from the song.
Yeah, little parody bit.
Yeah.
Be fun.
That could be kind of fun.
Just the chorus. All right, well, we'll workshop it. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying there has to be an episode 2.
No, yeah, there doesn't have to be, actually.
It just worked out that he was here, and you did a good job of pivoting in that segment of, I know that you had questions for me. You and I were just going to talk, but
I didn't have a lot.
Yeah, well, that's great. Because
I just wanted to ask about your DC trip. That was it.
Well, I can go into there. That'd be easy.
How was it, by the way?
It was really fun. They really load you up. So our school uses something called World Strides. It's probably one of 100 travel outfitters there in DC. So everything's sort of, I think our teacher, our head teacher, Mr. Heiberger, I think he has some options. Like they give you a range. It's like a la carte stuff. Like, okay, like you want to go here, we can do this and this and this and this. And then they kind of put the schedule for you. So he did a great job with that.
2 Bens, 1 cup. I don't get that one either.
I always love that one.
So anyway, 64686. You're in DC, Mr. Heiberger. I apologize. Puts everything together. Does a terrific job.
He does a great job. But the thing is that it is a full schedule. I mean, every day, like we landed Monday afternoon, let's call it 2:00. By the time we get it into all the buses and all that stuff out of the airport, we went right to the Air and Space Museum outside of Dulles Airport, which is a fantastic museum. It's a great museum because it's not a lot of kids there, not a lot of buses were there. So the kids had like a lot of time to go walk around and stuff. But it's kind of, I would say it's very niche. You have to be kind of into the space and, aeronautics and airplanes and stuff to like really get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
But really the point is though, like you hit the ground running. It was like that museum. We did the Holocaust Museum, I think that first day as well. And then it's like,
how solemn is that?
I mean, it's a must see and do when you're in DC. I would put that on the list of if you're ever going to go to DC, please put that on the list. It is so powerful. It puts so many things in perspective. They do a great job with it.
Similarly, I did the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam where you're physically walking up into it's a tearjerker, man. Perspective to the moon and back.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just like
but the Holocaust
it's like a
Museum
library
will be the
whisper
same.
in there, I'm sure.
It's something.
It's the same thing at the Holocaust thing. And then it's like dinner, and then we saw a bunch of monuments, and then we don't get back to the hotel until 9:30 every night. And then we have basically a room check, not a bed check, because the kids don't have to be in bed, but a room check at 10.
Okay.
So the kids get a few minutes to just kind of like mess around, but we want all the kids in their rooms. And that was like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We came home at 11, like basically 11 p.m. on Thursday. So like it is packed full of stuff. To which I think some of the kids, it's like a little overwhelming. It's like, how do you remember all of this stuff?
How old are the kids?
They're in 8th grade.
Okay.
So they're 13, 14.
13, 14, yeah.
And my kid really loved it. I mean, you love the hangout time. You love the bus rides. You love the hotel time, even though it's minimal. You just love hanging out with your friends. That's the best part. He doesn't care about some of the monuments. Like it's sort of lost on him to go to the Washington Monument and be like, yeah, it's cool. Let's get a picture. We don't need to be here a long time.
Yeah.
We did the Martin Luther King one. And, there's all this like, they put so much thought into how they carved this thing out of granite and what everything symbolically means. Kids, they don't care about that.
No.
They go and they literally walk up, they took a picture, and they walked away.
Yeah. In some ways, maybe they're just not capable yet of really kind of, because frankly, and like you said, it's so busy and.
Yeah, keep in mind there's 1,000 other kids doing the same thing that are all the same age.
And you could do 2 weeks there. And but that would be based on spending half a day at some of these things versus trying to check them off the list. Did you guys go into the White House at all?
We did go to the White House.
I'm jealous. I've never been in there, and I don't even know what I would expect or what I'm missing or maybe not missing. I've been outside a couple of times, just outside the fence and whatnot, but I've never been in there. How cool is that?
Even that, I think, is really impressive for people to see, to get a perspective of the grounds. You know, like how far you actually are away from Pennsylvania Avenue and the fencing. It's like there's a lot of lawn before, you know, and then you see the security around the place. Like, it's kind of cool to see the number of security and all the things that they have going on there. It's quite a process though to do the tour. I mean, we have to have your passport. You know, they do multiple facial recognitions. They have bomb sniffing dogs. They have multiple scanners that you have to go through. The security is high tech, as it should be. And then you go through there and it's like, you see maybe 5 rooms, 6 rooms.
Oh, that's
it's like the blue room, the red room, the green room, the dining room, the library.
You get to see like the Lincoln bedroom?
No.
Oh, come on.
No. So it's actually for all of the security that you go through, you spend about an equal amount of time outside getting through security as you do inside that part of the tour of the White House.
And in some ways, as you mentioned, other kids doing this from other groups, is it kind of a conveyor belt of people?
It is. Yes, the whole thing is. I will say the other recommendation, though, is the U.S. Capitol. Going to Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
That building is very impressive.
Make an appointment, though.
100%. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We, so I would say the one thing that at least my own kid said that he never realized is how impressively big all of the buildings are.
Yeah.
Because he asked me, he's like, why are all the buildings so big? You know, you go by like Department of Agriculture, giant granite building, crazy architecture. Then the U.S. Department of Commerce has a building that's giant. I don't know how much of the square footage they actually use, but I don't have an explanation. I'm like, I don't know. We got a big government, but these buildings are very old. So they've expanded parts of it and whatever, but everything is massive. The columns on the front of, the White House or the U.S. Capitol building, they're giant columns, everything is very, very big. So there's a very much an impressive part of it from just an engineering standpoint.
Oh, that's super cool. And, even as an adult, maybe I'm more interested in some of those spots and some of those items than others, but it is truly worth it, I think, to any kid to, in some form or fashion, to get out there and kind of see that. And whether it's the massive buildings in DC, Independence Hall in Philly, getting to cover Army, Navy. JG and I did that. You see the Liberty Bell. It's actually not that impressive in person, but you get to see it and you get to see the crack and take a picture. But Independence Hall, this tight, cramped, you picture this unair-conditioned building. They're holding Continental Congresses and they're getting together, locking themselves in this spot. They're wearing their knickers and high socks and wigs. And you're just wondering how awful that place had to have smelled.
Oh, yes.
But you appreciate the history of it and understand how magical things were made in this building. That's super cool, man. Just super. I'm happy. My kids are still just 10. Yeah. It'll be a few years before they get to do something like that. They absolutely need to go.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to go, especially as a young person, especially now in this day and age, I can really see the way our government looks. I'm not saying how it functions because you don't get to see that part of it. Nor do I think we want to see that sloppy mess of the way it functions.
The Donald wasn't just walking around?
Yeah, he wasn't just walking around. Although some people were telling us that, if he's in the White House, which he was that day because they were having some sort of event that night on the lawn.
So you were in the same building as the president?
We were in the same building.
Okay.
They said something like, he will come by sometimes of these tours and just make himself be seen and shake people's hands and then just leave. So we are all kind of hoping that was going to happen.
Well, see, that ruins the tour. I don't know who told you that, but that's all. You need the surprise to the crescendo.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that's going to be on my mind if I'm some kid taking the tour
is this being on the lookout.
I wonder if the president.
Yeah.
He does this sometimes.
I know.
Hold on. Okay. I'm standing up a little bit straighter.
Yeah.
I'm on the peak. Okay. Instead of 3 Secret Service guys right there, 6 show up. Oh, they might be the president.
I know.
They're bringing in reinforcements.
I know.
Oh, it didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah. You know what else I think is really impressive? And I actually, somebody on social media reached out to me. I apologize, I forgot your name, but he said So when he got back, he's like, man, I wish if I'd known you were in D.C., I could have given you a tour of the Pentagon. I was like, huh?
Oh.
So because you don't realize the Pentagon
talk about massive.
I mean, that's the Pentagon is right off the interstate.
Yeah.
I mean, you land at Reagan International Airport, and right across the interstate is the largest office building in the world. And it's right there. And you think about everything that's happening and operating inside that building. Like all of us on the tour, like all of us adults, are like, we want to get in there.
I want to go to that building.
We want to go there. And we want to drive to Langley and go to CIA. Like those are the things that we wanted to see. And I didn't know that you could take a tour of the Pentagon, but apparently you can.
You better get more than 5 or 6 rooms out of that thing.
Oh yeah, you better.
That's got to be a few hours with the lunch.
But it is fascinating to see, because we did see, you go to the memorial for the Pentagon, the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah.
And we do tour that on the outside of the Pentagon. So we're on the Pentagon grounds looking at that. And you're like, I cannot believe that these hijackers took this airplane going that fast, that low to the ground to hit the Pentagon. I mean, it is remarkably skilled in how they were able to do that. The way that they sort of infiltrated all of our flight programs, and, they actually got accredited and all this other stuff, because the way that it was explained to us, the turn that they made into the Pentagon, like it's almost like they were operating a fighter jet and not a passenger airplane.
Yeah, there was some needle threading that had to take place that day on multiple levels.
Yes.
Unbelievable. But seeing that history, being close to it one way or another, that's awesome, man. Glad you got to do that. Glad your boy got to do that as well. I guess final question. What do you think of minicamp? Anything hot on your mind with the Vikings? You want Jair Alexander? You think J.J. McCarthy's going to be awesome? Anything pique your interest? They're about to close the door for about 6 weeks here.
I mean, I'm so excited for JJ. I really am. In everything about what everybody says seems so genuine. And I think that we've been in this business long enough to know whether they're trying to blow smoke. And, we can usually see it with our own eyes too. Like, I don't know. Like, let's wait and see how he is in the first few games and all this other stuff. And you have your questions. It's funny. It's like, I don't have a lot of questions about JJ. I really didn't when he was coming out of college. I'm like, I think this guy's kind of got the it factor.
Yeah.
I hope he proves me right for a lot of reasons. But I really do have a positive feeling about him. I got a positive feeling about the way they shaped up this team. Now, as far as additions, it's not going to surprise me if we add somebody here and there. I don't think it's going to be Jair. I don't think it's going to be Jalen Ramsey. We've been very strategic about bringing in certain players to fit our scheme and what we want. And if we're going to go with that, if it became more affordable to get a guy like Jalen Ramsey, I could see that move over a Jair Alexander.
Okay. We get obsessed with names sometimes.
We do. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's going to be literally somebody way off the board.
Right.
That we're like, wait, who? I didn't even know he was available, or we haven't been paying attention to him.
Well, and they've proven that. I mean, not to say that Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year, is just a name off the board, but in some ways he was gun for hire part of his career. Shaq Griffin, they found a way to get run out of him.
Yeah.
And even more recently now, currently, Jeff Okudah, I would consider to be a name that is somewhat off the board in terms of trying to find a lot from a little, a chance for resurgence, if you will, from Okudah. So I'm with you there. Maybe a gun for hire in camp or something like that.
And I think after mention those names at cornerback, I think they've proven that you find the right guys that you don't have to stress if it's week 3 into training camp and you bring a guy in.
Right.
It's not too late for that guy to be a solid contributor or even a starter. So it could be a couple weeks into camp. It most certainly could be after the first, or after the cuts, like when everybody makes their cuts. Obviously there's going to be moves made there. But another guy that you just remind me, like, I want to see how Rondale does. Here's a guy that I think everybody was excited about coming out of college. He had a little bit of a size issue maybe, but in this offense, if he still retains that short area quickness and that open field quickness and breakaway speed, I'm like, he could be phenomenal in
Yeah, that's
KOC's
sweet.
system.
You're the best, man. Thanks for hanging out today. Between two Bens, a bit on, of course, history in the Capitol and a little bit of training, mini camp. Can't talk. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Yeah, always good to see you.
That's Ben Leber at Nacho Leber. Twin Cities Live, of course, in the afternoons. You find him everywhere. It's Ben Leber. Some news is next. Lavelle at the top of the hour, 9 to noon.
Fan.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Super truncated. You know what we can catch up on things, Brett? News to Nord brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Thank you, Canterbury, as always. Live racing last night, live racing on Saturday evenings, live racing Saturdays around 1 p.m. You can get the full live racing schedule and how you can feel the felt. Poker, blackjack, and table games, CanterburyPark.com. I apologize for going late with Ben Leber. What we will do is we're actually going to catch up. We're going to pause, and we're going to call Lavelli Neal III. We'll get into, of course, that Buxton blast from yesterday as the Twins, David Festa going 6 strong. We'll talk to him about that. OKC laying one down in Indy last night. The Pacers taking the 2-1 lead. Unbelievable defensive effort with the Pacers, now up 2-1 in the NBA Finals series. And Game 4 is this evening. You're actually going to get to hear it. Pregame around 6:30 right here on the Fan, and puck drop. Sorry, State of Hockey. Shortly after 7 p.m., the Florida Panthers with a 2-1 lead and hosting this one. Chance to effectively, they could put the series on ice. That's dumb because they play on I'll work on it during the break. Big game tonight, of course. Oilers, if they really want to find their way to Lord Stanley's Cup with McDavid and Draisaitl, I think they absolutely need this one this evening in Sunrise, Florida. But we'll talk about all that with Lavelle, and then we're going to jump into more news topics and Vikings minicamp audio following that as we enter the final hour. It's Nordo in for PA on the Fan. Let's get back on track on the Fan.